flash, and the remaining topic is recent trends in the flash technology. First one is this charge trap cell or charge trap flash. So this is a little bit different from what we discussed on the floating gate. So this one is called the charge trap cell, or sometimes it's referred to as SONOS, S-O-N-O-S. So basically the difference is in the gate stack here. So previously we have the floating gate, which is based on the polysilicon. And the difference here is that we replace this polysilicon floating gate with a nitride layer. So then this nitride layer will act as the charge trap layer. So this is the main difference between the floating gate and the charge trap. And the name SONOS is because of the structure. If you look at this structure across the gate, so for example, we have the channel, which is silicon, and then the first is the ternal oxide, still in this case silicon dioxide, and then here this floating gate becomes this charge trap layer, and this is the nitride, and typically like silicon nitride. And then this silicon dioxide again, this is interpoly. Of course here is no longer poly, but that is this interpoly dielectric between the floating gate and the control gate. And again, the control gate here, for example, if it's still the polysilicon gate, then it's silicon. So that's why this is silicon, oxide, nitride, oxide, silicon. So this is a SONOS structure. So the main benefit here for the SONOS structure is lower programming voltage, and typically less than 10 volts, maybe like 5 to 7 volts. So this is relatively lower than the floating gate, where you need like maybe 15 volt, 18 volt, even 20 volts. So this one has smaller programming voltage, and sometimes it shows better endurance as the program is cycling, and data retention is also better. For example, the reason the data retention is better is because the mechanism here is a charge trap. The key difference, let's say, between the floating gate is that in the floating gate, you have this polysilicon. This is your channel, this is your control gate. And when the electron enters the floating gate, because floating gate is polysilicon, it's a piece of conductor. Because you dope that polysilicon, then the charge can move. So this charge will be kind of uniformly distributed across the floating gate. So the electrons can move in the floating gate case. And if you have a leakage path, for example, you have a trap or defect here, and then one electron leak out, so the other electrons may follow the same path, because the electrons can move in the floating gate, because it's polysilicon. You know, polysilicon is kind of conducting. And the difference in the charge trap cell, here this is again the channel, and this is the nitride, and this is control gate. So in this case, nitride is insulator. Okay, so when the electrons get into the nitride, it will be trapped to this location, and it will not move. Okay, so if you have one electron leak out through, for example, here the defect, then the other electrons will not move, because this is an insulator. So the charge or electrons don't move around. So that's why it may show a little bit better retention, right? So any questions? And the operation of this charge trap cell is very similar as the floating gate cell. And the program erase are due to the FN turning. And the only difference is that in the where's the mouse? Okay. So in the program and erase, previously we talked about that the floating gate only the electrons are turning through, but in the SONOS case, the holes are also turning through. For example, here in the erased case, we apply negative voltage to the gate, or we apply positive voltage to the substrate. In this case, voltage is lower, like 7 volts. And then, if you apply negative 7 volt here, then erase electrons will go out, but at the same time, you may attract some holes into the floating gate. So those holes into the floating gate will recombine with the electron. So it's, essentially like you erase the electron out from the charge trapping layer. So the reason that the holes can move in this case is because of band diagram in this structure. The barrier for the holes in this case, I think, is lower than before. So because here the barrier for the holes in this case is smaller. So both carriers, like electron and holes, are involved in the process. So it's more efficient. And then actually there's evolution of the nitride-based charge trap flash cell. And here from the very beginning, this NOS structure to the SONOS, and then to today's called the TANOS structure. The difference is that the poly gate, which used to be silicon S, now become a kind of metal, tinitride. Oh, sorry, this is tantalum nitride. TAN is a metallic material, and it's like metal. So we use this TA, so we use T for this. And then this silicon dioxide between the control gate and this charge trap layer or floating gate change from the silicon dioxide to the aluminum oxide. So then become A here, and then NOS. So this is the so-called the TANOS structure, which is the most recent structure. And why do we introduce this charge trap cell? Because later, when we discuss the 3D NAND flash, the 3D NAND flash from most of the vendors are using this charge trap. For example, Samsung, the 3D NAND is using the charge trap cell instead of floating gate cell. So any questions here?
So, particularly the electrons in the holes are stored in the well that's formed by the lower dielectric, the lower band gap in the nitride.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, okay.
So depending on the defect level, I mean the trap level in the nitride.
Yeah.
So for the holes, the tunneling is also possible because of the trap level. Yeah. Okay, so next let's look at the last topic, which is important because this is the recent technology innovation. That's the 3D NAND. And if you look at the NAND scaling roadmap, and after 2010, so it enters this 20-something nanometer. So the industry does not like to disclose the exact feature size, so they use 2x, 2y, 2z node, and then become 1x, 1y, 1z node. And then after we enter the let's say 1y node or 1z node, around like 15 nanometer, 14 nanometer, we face significant challenges in the scaling, as we discussed before, due to the cell coupling and the limited number of electrons. So the scaling is really difficult. And then the 3D NAND emerged at that time, around 2014 or 15. So let's look at the 3D NAND timeline. And the first concept of the 3D NAND was introduced by Toshiba back in 2007. And this is reported at the symposium on VLSI technology. And the first structure is called BICS. And today we're going to have some discussions on this paper. So because this is the first report, and this is like a milestone in this 3D NAND technology. This is 2007, and then 2 years later, again in the same conference, VLSI, Toshiba publishes an improved version of this BICS structure. The same year, Samsung reported this TCAS cell, kind of similar as Toshiba's design. And later, different companies like Hynix, Micronix, though they followed this kind of 3D NAND research. But then, at 2014, Samsung first commercialized the 3D NAND into the market. Though I think Samsung's research maybe start a little bit later than the Toshiba, but Samsung is the first one to commercialize this. And they disclosed the details of the design in the ISCC conference 2014. And this is the R&D timeline for the 3D NAND, about 7 years. So let's talk about the 3D NAND. Actually, there are different kinds of 3D NAND. And the first one is called the simply stacked NAND, which is not used by any company. But the concept is very simple, okay? So if you want to increase density, then you want to use the third dimension. You want to stack multiple layers. And how do you do that? Okay, you can have different approaches. The very simplest approach is this simply stacked NAND. Idea is very simple. You have the 2D NAND, and then you can build multiple layers one by one. You stack it, simply stack it. So the channel is still horizontal, and the gate is still horizontal. It's like planar transistor, but you just build one more layers on top of each other. But this one is not good, okay? The reason is that you save some silicon area. However, the fabrication cost does not scale in this case. So you need to understand what contributes to the cost of the memory cell. So we need to consider the fabrication steps. And in the fabrication, the most expensive step is the lithography. So the mask, let's say. So every time you do the lithography, you are going to burn like $1 million there. So you want to reduce the number of lithography steps. But if you simply stack the NAND flash cell, then you are going to repeat the same fabrication step every layer. Then the number of litho steps increases as the number of layers. Then equivalently, you don't save too much fabrication cost per memory cell or per bit. The only thing you save is the substrate area, but that cost is a relatively small portion of the whole fabrication process. So the key idea is that you want to save the number of litho steps when you do multiple layers. And then there are two approaches called the not simply stacked NAND. The difference is the channel direction. So you can still keep the horizontal channel. The channel is still horizontal. But here the gate needs to be shared. So the gate will be so-called the vertical gate. And this is actually very similar as today's, I would say, not today's, maybe the next generation logic transistor for 5 nanometer, 3 nanometer. So this one is like the stacked nanosheet transistor. So let's draw the cross section so you will understand better. So this is like the nanowire, and the channel direction is in and out from the plane. So the channel is in and out from the plane. So what you want to do here is to share the gate. Okay. So of course here you will have the oxide surround the channel, but the gate is vertical, or it's like FinFET. It's like FinFET, but within that fin, you have many wires. You can think that way. So this is a vertical gate because gate is shared across multiple layers, and each layer is a nanowire. The channel is horizontal. And this is very similar as actually today's, not today's, I should say, next generation logic transistor, maybe at 5 nanometer, 3 nanometer. So this is a so-called the vertical gate, 3D NAND flash. So here, the reason you can save the cost is because the gate is shared across different layers. So you just need one lithography step to define that gate. So then the cost is shared among multiple layers. That's why you save the cost per bit. So this is this one. And then the second one is called the vertical channel, 3D NAND. So in this case, the channel is vertical, and it's like the vertical nanowire. And then in this case, the gate is horizontal. So in this case, it's like there's a nanowire pinner, and this is a channel. And then the gate is surrounding the channel, each layer. So this is the vertical channel. This is the vertical channel.
So for the not simply stacked, these two, are they still die stacked?
Die stacked? No, this is monolithic.
Okay.
So the 3D NAND is a monolithic process. There's no die stacking.
Even with the simply stacked NAND, that's still
Simply stacked is still monolithic.
still monolithic.
So we will discuss. Yes, here's nothing related to TSV. There's no TSV. Okay. TSV is not dense, as we discussed. TSV's diameter is a few micrometer. So you cannot get this dense. This NAND we're talking about what? Tens of nanometer in the feature size, right? So let's look at the 3D memory family. And if you look at memory cell, and we talk about that the simply stacked type. As I said, when you increase the number of the layer, you are going to increase the number of masks for the lithography. So this will increase the cost. Okay. However, still there is a memory based on this kind of simply stacked approach. For example, this cross-point memory we are going to discuss maybe in next lecture. The 3DX point from the Intel and Micron. So actually, it's using the simply stacked approach. But that is for the emerging memories, like phase change memory in that case. So this does not apply to the NAND. And then for the not simply stacked approach here, and then within this is simple, and this is not simple. And with the not simple, we discussed that we have the vertical channel or vertical gate. Okay. And the vertical gate, I think the only company is pursuing this is this Macronix, which is a small company in Taiwan. And they are holding most of the patents of this vertical gate 3D NAND. I don't know if they are in volume production or not, or still in the research phase. So, but most of company will follow this vertical channel approach here. And then within the vertical channel approach, there are two subcategories. One is the gate first process, one is gate last process. Or this is similar as the old days when we talk about high-k metal gate technology. Gate first and gate last process. So let's say gate first, we will discuss this later. But let's say for the gate first process, Intel and Micron is the major supporter for this gate first process. For the rest companies like Samsung, Toshiba, SanDisk, or nowadays Western Digital, or SK Hynix, they are all using the gate last process. So we are going to discuss this more in details in the next couple of slides.
So for the horizontal channel one device, so the charge trap there is also like along with the gate, like it's like a fin, the charge trap one?
Vertical gate, horizontal channel, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like a FinFET, yes.
And so like whatever, you have 3 nanowires or 4 nanowires, that's like one channel, one transistor.
No, those are separate,
Oh,
yeah, individual. This
so
is
they're insulated.
you have to have select transistor as the edge of the string to individually select which layer. Yeah, they are not commonly controlled. They are separately controlled. Okay, so those 3 circles basically highlight the eventual product that you can buy from the market. Okay, so here the 3D, actually 3D NAND, because Intel is more like 3D vertical. Oh yes, they are all vertical channels. Okay, so all of them are vertical channel, 3D NAND, and you can buy them. Today's SSD, most of SSD are based on this 3D NAND. Okay, so let's go to the first paper by Toshiba, which is a milestone in this technology. And this, again, published in 2007 in the VLSI. And they call it a bit cost scalable technology. Even today, they call it like BICS. So the key idea is to do this vertical channel. And here are the figures from the paper. And we're going to see some of the details in the next couple of slides.